Let's talk about the mover node today. To do that, like always, Control N for a new scene, and we switch here to our logic layout. You can find the mover node in the toolbox under the animation category, and then you see it's the very first on top. Let's drag and drop that mover node in. As you can see, it's a content node, so we put it here in our content editor, right? So the mover node is one of the most used very flexible nodes to make simple animations like rotating some geometries or making some alpha fade in and fade out, things like that. um, Let's talk quickly about here our input properties. We have here a nudge and a reset to control it. We have a range setup, right, where we can say from what value, minimum value to the maximum value our mover should run. And we have as well a speed category where we can say how long that mover will need to run from minimum to maximum, right? In the outputs, you also can see we have an event and a value, and that event is basically always fired once that mover is basically hitting that minimum value again. And the value is basically an animation of the values we set up here in the inputs. To make that more clear, let me quickly create something like a little arrow here, right? So I use axis, I use a rectangle, and let's put that guy here. So that rectangle we make a bit larger. Then we use another axis and we use a circle because I want to make something like an arrow tip, right? So that circle we move up because it's in the center now, so it's there. Let's make it also a bit larger. Let's go to the circle, bring that tessellation all the way down to 1. Then we have then our circle is not a circle anymore, then our circle is a triangle basically. And let's rotate it by 90 degrees. And let's bring that guy a bit more down. And also maybe let's add some color. So we have solid white for our guy here, and we just control left click, copy that color and make that maybe red. And now we have that arrow with that white arrow with that red tip. Okay, so what we will do now, we will put basically connect our axis, yeah, this axis here, the set rotation, we will connect to our mover, right? Because then we have a very nice visual feedback what our mover is doing. So simply drag and drop that set rotation to the mover. And as you can see, probably now a little bit, our arrow is rotating over the Z axis with from -1 to +1. Yeah, because these are the default values from our mover, right? If I change that now to -90 to 90 for the maximum, then you can see our arrow is now going from -90 to +90 degrees, right? So now let's change here some settings. We have here, for example, the function, right? Under the function, we can change that to a sine curve, right? So as you can see, this is now more that sine curve where the mover is basically slowing down at the end when he, at the minimum or before he reaches the minimum or before he reaches the maximum, right? With that swing, if we turn off that swing, then you can see the mover is basically running without that swing enabled, is running from the minimum to the maximum and is then jumping directly back to the minimum. Okay, this is the swing. Let's bring it maybe back here to linear. As you can see, once he reaches here at 90 degrees on the left side, then he's jumping back to the minimum, right? Okay, so let's also talk about some other functions. We have also here the cosine, right? So as you can see, that's, yeah, it's basically the opposite from the sine. Then we have here our alternate. Yeah, with the alternate, he's basically jumping every second, yeah, what we set up here in the duration from the minimum to the maximum. And we also have some random number, yeah, where he basically chooses a value each second from the minimum, between minimum and maximum range. Okay. So let's go on to the next one. We also have infinite here. That infinite simply means that guy is now running all the time in infinite numbers, basically, right? Okay, so let's default them back to normal and let's check here our speed settings again, right? So for example, let's say you are going from 0 to 360, right? with the swing on, he's going always all the way. He's swinging from 0 to 360 and back, right? If we turn that off, then we have similar like that infinite, what we had before. If we say here, hey, do that now in, for example, 60 seconds, right? Then he will need exactly 1 minute to go to make one 360-degree turn, okay? So let's bring that down maybe to 2. And let's check here our modes under the speed. We have here our absolute, our relative, our one shot, and infinite, right? So for example, if I'm in absolute mode, in the default mode, and if I change here that offset, then you can see he's doing very weird things. Or also if I change here my speed, he's doing same weird things, because this absolute basically means that this time is synchronized with the absolute time from the Ventuz clock, basically, right? So if we switch that to relative, and if I bring my time down now, then you can see he is smoothly slowing down or increasing the speed without doing that weird stuff, right? So this is sometimes very nice if you want to control the duration during runtime for some certain applications, right? So let's also check here that one shot. This one shot mode enables here the nudge and the reset, right? So if I press my nudge now, then that mover will do exactly one shot, and that one shot is basically defined here in the range, right? So he's running from the minimum to the maximum, okay? So he is basically doing a 360-degree turn. So let's nudge it again, bam. And he's doing in 2.6 seconds that 360 turn, right? So let's check out that infinite. That infinite is also connected or enables basically here that control. If we press nudge, then that mover will running all the time, infinite time, until I press reset, okay? This is basically what the infinite means, okay? So now let's also quickly talk about the offset. To do that, I will create two movers. So let's run that guy from 0 to 360. And simply let's copy that. Let's call that 0, 1. And let's simply copy that, control left click, and then let's bring them all to the content editor, because then we have access to our content nodes, the two movers, right? So we have mover 1, let's bring that down, and we have mover 2, let's also rename that to be consistent. And now we simply move that guy to the left a bit, -9, that's okay. And this one we move to the right, +9, right? So now you can see both movers have exactly the same settings, because we just simply make a copy out of them. So if I offset my mover 1 now, my mover 2 now by 0.5, right? Then you can see he is basically running 180 degrees after that first mover, right? So with this, you basically can make nice offsets. And of course, you're also able to change times.